Adams County Nursery is a fifth-generation family fruit tree farm located about 30 miles southwest of Harrisburg, PA, or 10 miles north of Gettysburg. As their website states,
established in 1905, we at Adams County Nursery recognize the significance of the contribution of previous generations who worked to build a company set in sound business principles, and we strive to continue our tradition of quality products with a commitment to customer service.
Those aren't empty words simply tossed around because they sound good. The people at Adams County Nursery truly embody the principles by which you'd come to expect from a fifth-generation family business. Over the last several years, we've run the spectrum of fruit tree suppliers. Everything from home improvement chains to mail-order catalogs, nothing has even come close to the product quality or exceptional customer experience that you'll encounter when doing business with Adams County Nursery. ACN grows a variety of fruit trees, and we've had excellent success with their high-quality nursery stock in the past. You can buy anywhere from one tree to as many as you'd like, but naturally a pricing structure is in place to provide price breaks at various thresholds. Going right to the nursery for your fruit-bearing trees has several distinct advantages over the aforementioned suppliers. First, you're doing business with the professionals. These guys eat, sleep, and breathe fruit trees. If you have any questions, not only will they be able to steer you in the right direction, but they also stand behind their trees. Second, from a cost perspective, you're cutting out a number of channels that stand to profit from your purchase, which means you can invest more of your money into fruit production. There's no duplication in shipping and storage costs. There's less general overhead built into the price, and no markup on the sale by retailers or distributors. Third, the trees you're buying are coming straight to you from the grower. There's no worry as to where they came from or under what conditions they were grown. Most nurseries recommend that you submit your order several months in advance. In fact, if you can provide the nursery with your order at least a year out, you'll all but guarantee that the biggest and healthiest trees are set aside in your name. Nurseries rely heavily on forward-looking analysis called from historical trends more so than crystal balls. Essentially, they can only plant what they expect to sell 2 years down the road based on pre-orders and prior year sales. So if you submit an order in April, don't expect to be planting those trees the following month. Last April, we submitted an additional 100 tree order for yet another apple orchard that we've planned for 2015. In this episode, we're headed to Aspers, PA, home to Adams County Nursery, where we've nearly purchased more apple trees from them than there are residents in the village itself. ACN President Phil Baugher recently took time out of his schedule during one of the busiest times of year in the fruit tree business to give us a tour of the nursery and provide a behind-the-scenes look at how this incredible company continues to lead the way.
All right, how you doing? I'm here with Phil Baugher with Adams County Nursery, and he's going to show us around today and give us a little information and history on the farm and where they plan on going, and give us a little tutorial on some of the grafting processes they do today.
We were started by my great-grandfather in 1905.
Okay, so this is a family business then?
It's a family business. I'm fourth generation in the family business. And prior to my great-grandfather starting the nursery business, he had orchards and dairy and cattle and decided to get into the nursery business, and then it was taken over by my grandfather and then taken over by my father, and now there's 4 in my generation that work in the business.
So what's the prospect for the future? Where do you guys plan on going? What's the outlook, the 10 and 20 year outlook for Adams County Nursery?
Well, we have the 5th generation actively involved in the business, and it looks like there will be 6 family members in the 5th generation. That's
just
the way
keeps expanding and growing.
It's the way it seems at this point.
Good.
We've had a healthy growth rate over the past 20 years of about 10% a year. And we like what we do.
That's good.
We've
You're
been
good
around,
at what you do.
we've been around for a long time, and we like what we do, and this next generation seems to be very interested in carrying it on. And
Okay.
so we'll see.
Okay, great. How many acres do you grow on that, do you think, approximately?
We harvest about 90 acres of nursery stock a year.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which is around,
How many trees roughly is that?
it's around 900,000.
A lot of trees. Jeez.
So we're going to start trying to demonstrate how this process happens.
Okay, great.
Okay. Now, this particular orchard is Golden Delicious.
Okay.
Okay, so these trees are about 10 years old, and if I want to produce new Golden Delicious trees, I come in here. Now this is done in the summer,
Okay.
but this shoot last summer would have had leaves on it. Okay, so we have people that come in that are trained to know that they're in the right variety, because we grow over 300 varieties of fruit, and they take cuttings like that.
Okay.
And if you look closely underneath where the leaf petiole was last summer is a small bud, and that is a vegetative bud. So what we produce the trees from comes from those buds.
That's what you'll graft on the rootstock.
And the type of grafting that we do in August is the one kind of grafting that can be done while the plants are actively growing. Okay, while the parent stock, this being Golden Delicious, is actively growing in August. Okay, they've typically by August have set the terminal bud on these shoots, but the plant is still actively growing. So we take these off and remove the leaf from these within 2 hours of the time they're removed from the trees. The leaves are stripped off.
Okay.
And that is what we use then to take to the field to propagate. So then we take this to the field. And I came here because we have, this is where, the one field of apple trees that we have. The pears right now are only not that big, but these I thought I'd come over here because these haven't been headed back yet. Now, last summer, we should come around to this side. Here again, trained people that trained to do this kind of work, because it's not something that an amateur can do. Come in here and they remove these buds by taking a chip from the stick. Okay? So that's what gets inserted into the plant. It's then inserted by making a cut like that down into the tree, and then another cut to slice the bark away. And then it's placed in there like that. A person follows them with a tape and wraps that bud in place
To seal out moisture.
to seal it in.
Okay.
And within about 14 days, that bud becomes a part of this plant. Okay? Because when you line up the two cambiums, this plant keeps this alive till it has time to form the callus material.
That fuses together.
Fuses together. Now, if you look down where that was done, down here, this time of year, and then we come in and we make that cut.
Gotcha. And then that'll take off as the actual...
And then that single bud will begin to grow, and it'll get up to about 6 feet.
Gotcha.
that would be the second year that the trees are growing in the nursery, and they then are ready to harvest and take into the warehouse in November
For planting the spring season.
for the following season's
Gotcha.
planting.
So when you get the tree and you're putting it in the ground, it's already 2 years old.
Yes. These have been in here for a year. They're grafted in August of the first year, and then the second year they're cut back.
Gotcha. And then this year these will grow, then you'll harvest them this fall
Right.
for next year's crop. I can imagine you got some pretty big burn piles to get rid of the excess pruning.
Well, actually, we have a machine that comes in here and chops.
Do you really? Yeah, you
It
flail
chops
mow
up
it?
the brush.
Yeah.
And,
I noticed on the way down there's a lot of people burning off. You guys had some bad fire blight last year. I know that was a problem. around
it
the state.
was, and that's the way we get rid of old orchards.
Yeah.
We put them in piles like the pile over there.
Gotcha. Torch them off.
And burn them.
I know Sam.
Oh yeah, I know Sam.
Okay, he's
I
an
know
older guy.
Yeah, I know
He's
Sam
been in
very
business
well.
for a while.
Yeah.
Good friends. He had some bad fire blight that hit the orchard this last summer.
This was the worst fire blight year I think I've ever seen
Said the same
here in
thing.
Pennsylvania. It
It
just
was moist.
terrible.
It was warm in the springtime, and surprisingly, I had one tree that got it, and it was the Crystal and Jonathan, which are notorious for getting fire
yeah.
blight. So
Oh, yeah.
outside of that, I was I was really lucky because I had 85 apple trees that had nothing on them, and I didn't spray for it either.
We had here in the county, we had orchards that were so bad they just took the whole orchard
That
out.
hurt.
You couldn't even prune it out. We call these bud sticks. Some people call them cyanwood. There's lots of different names for them. We call them bud sticks. But it's critically important to have good, healthy budwood to use for propagating.
Okay.
And this particular block is a certified block of we call virus clean wood.
Okay.
And we're very active in a state certification program to produce clean stock.
Okay.
And that's a big concern of ours, because if you get plant diseases which can be transferred from this tree by taking a cutting off of it and moving it to a rootstock, you can develop some serious problems in the orchards.
Okay.
So,
Spending the time and the research and the money to make sure that you
Yeah.
keep the trees as clean as possible.
yes, and there's a national program called the National Clean Plant System,
Yep.
National Clean Plant Network, that works at cleaning up the material and distributing it to nurseries around the country, around the world.
Great.
We're very active in that.
Now, are all the varieties certified, or is it just a certain percentage of it? Where's the nursery at as far as that's concerned?
We consider 2 levels of certification.
Okay.
One is produced from the top. The top tier would be produced from virus clean wood,
Okay.
and second would be virus certified wood.
Gotcha. I knew there was a couple different
Yeah, there's
classifications.
several classifications, but because it's very difficult to clean up hundreds and hundreds of varieties.
Absolutely.
And we have customers that want us to grow special varieties for them, and it takes about 6 to 8 years to get a variety through the system and
Gotcha.
have trees large enough to produce adequate cyanwood.
Now, I see routinely through the catalog, you guys will have new varieties that'll pop up. This year, you have a Honeycrisp variety that's coming out a few weeks earlier. How does that come to be? I mean, do you guys put a tree in an orchard like this, grow it for a couple of years, see how it produces, evaluate it, and then decide it's ready to go into the catalog for production?
Yeah, well, new varieties come from various sources. First of all, breeding programs are developed through hybridization.
Okay.
And we work with a number of breeding programs, testing their new varieties, doing the evaluations, determining whether they have value. And then other varieties come from what are called genetic mutations or tree sports, where you might have one limb on a tree that's slightly different.
Similar to like the red Bartlett pear.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, or a red strain of Gala. This particular tree here is a red strain of Gala that came out of New Zealand. And so we have it here, and we also have it in a test site to evaluate it compared to other strains of Gala.
Okay.
A lot of the Galas came from limb sports. The original Gala came from a cross from a traditional breeding program, actually in New Zealand.
Yeah.
But then that particular variety is tends to throw lots of sports. There's probably 25 different selections of Galas.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that.
And the Honeycrisp that we just introduced is a complete tree sport. One tree in an orchard of 1,000.
Just a random fluke.
It
It
matures
takes
3 weeks early.
Takes the farmer to notice that there's a difference.
Yeah,
there.
and the farmer noticed it, of course, when he was driving around one Sunday afternoon and looking at his orchard, and Honeycrisp was 3 weeks from harvest,
Yeah.
and there was one tree that was ready
to go.
So we propagated from that tree.
Sure.
And you have to be able to show that you can maintain that characteristic into the second generation.
Gotcha.
So we had to propagate it and see if it held that characteristic, which
to
it
get
did.
A different plant patent on
Yes,
it, correct?
and then we were able to get a plant patent on it.
Great, yeah. So your rootstocks, that was another question I wanted to ask you. Do you propagate your rootstocks, or do you buy them from another facility?
We buy our rootstocks from people who specialize in rootstock production, primarily in Washington and Oregon.
Okay.
Is where that industry has developed. We use about 5 different suppliers out in Washington and Oregon.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Now peaches are different. Peaches are started from seed, and we grow our own seed here on the farm.
Okay.
And harvest it and clean it, dry it, store it, and
same thing with pears. Then you source that from another vendor.
yeah, pears
Okay.
are started from rootstocks.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Well,
Good.
thank you.
Yeah.
Now that we've toured the property from a field and learned how fruit trees are propagated and harvested, it's time to head back to the main office to continue our tour. The next stop along the way, cold storage, where the harvested trees and rootstock are sorted and stored through the winter.
Appreciate you taking the time to show us around.
These are all orders that are staged for delivery.
Okay.
Mostly in this room are trees that are being planted here in the county. So we don't have to package them up any more than what they are currently. We can just set these skids of trees on the back of flatbed trucks, and they go to the field
Right now.
and plant.
Now I take it like every couple hours or days you sprinkle.
Well, there's a mist system in here that comes on at night
Okay.
to keep the humidity up, and
What's the approximate temperature then you keep them at?
we keep it around 35 degrees. Well, these trees were all brought in November and early December, and they're brought in loose, stacked on these skids, just pulled from the ground, stacked on the skids, brought up here and put in cold storage. And then they're moved over to the other building where they're graded by size, tied in bundles, and labeled by variety rootstock.
Gotcha.
Counted, and then back over.
A lot of man hours involved.
Yeah, and we typically get done grading in mid-January to get everything graded and counted and here into the warehouse. So, your typical bundle of trees. These are Fujis, and we color code them in the field. So that if they would happen to get mixed up, you can identify the variety rootstock by the color code.
Okay.
We looked at the field at the grafting process.
Sure.
And how we cut the trees off right above the bud. Well, it's pretty
So you can
pretty
you can
easy to see
the
then
original.
what happens where this cut was made, and that bud that was inserted in the field the first year grows up to become the tree. So then this is what you refer to as the graft union.
Okay.
It's the union between the scion and the rootstock. And all the trees that we produce here are grafted. either bud grafted or bench grafted, but grafted in some way.
And that's how you maintain the characteristics of that variety.
It's what's referred to as asexual reproduction. So you're producing a plant from one parent, and that being the tree that you took the budwood off of. If you plant the seed, then that is the product of the crossing of two flowers. So every seed is unique, just like humans. We're all the product of two parents,
Sure.
and we are all unique individuals. If you take 1,000 apple seeds out of Red Delicious apples, you won't get a single Red Delicious tree.
You get a trait or a similarity.
You get some characteristic of the Red Delicious,
but
probably.
not the same.
But you get 1,000 unique individuals.
Gotcha.
And that's how conventional breeding programs work, by crossing the flowers, taking the seeds from the fruit, planting them out, and selecting. A plant breeder told me one time he probably introduces one variety for every 30,000
I can imagine.
individuals.
Yeah, which is why there's such an incredible variety now. There's so many people trying to find that new.
Yeah.
Honeycrisp, I can imagine, was probably the similarity of that process.
Yeah,
Some of the
Honeycrisp was a cross, and I can't tell you what the parents are.
Yeah.
But
So say like a Golden Delicious apple is a cutting of that original tree all the way back
To
150
West
years
Virginia.
ago to
Yep.
West Virginia,
Yep.
right? We just keep on maintaining that genetic composition.
Fuji, which has become a very, very important variety to the commercial industry here in the state and in the nation, is actually a cross of Red Delicious. Red Delicious and Rawls Jeanette that was made in Japan, I think back in the 50s.
Wow.
So,
Yeah. Interesting stuff. Now, planting, and that's one thing that I didn't know when I first started planting trees. That graft union you have there, to maintain the characteristics of the rootstock, you want to make sure you keep that union above the soil level, right?
you got it, yes, because what can happen is the variety can scion root.
It'll root itself.
And it tends to be extremely vigorous
Sure.
when the scion sets roots. Gala is very bad for scion roots. It just has to touch the soil and it'll shoot a root.
So where do you recommend the height above soil level for the scion?
We recommend to keep that about 2 inches.
2 inches?
above the soil.
Great.
These are peach trees.
Are there peaches? Okay.
Yeah, these are peach trees. Now we process through about 3,000 orders every spring. So we have guys that are working over in the warehouse that are pulling the orders, and it can be anything from 1 tree to 10,000 trees.
Jeez.
And they organize the orders on these skids with the order number and the name of the customer, and they're brought over here to be packed for shipping. And we ship by UPS and freight carrier.
Okay.
And then we also do full trailer loads to some of our larger customers.
So where's the majority of your trees going? Are they going within Pennsylvania? Are they? Where do you suppose?
Well, we're
the
still
majority of your
still
business
about
is at?
35% of our business is New York and New England.
Okay.
15% into Canada, and
Okay.
we ship a lot. We ship from Georgia to Maine to primarily east of the Mississippi. So you're going to be on TV. You're going to be on TV. These are really where we process through the small orders that typically are less than 10, 15 trees, and they get shipped UPS.
Okay.
Each one of these little bundles here is an order, and they get brought over here, packed in cartons, and labeled for shipping, and go out the front door. UPS picks up here every day. Or process larger orders that are going out by freight carriers, and they're brought over again from the other building, pulled, organized, and then they get packed in these larger cartons that can be that have to be shipped by truck. UPS won't handle a package this large.
So I'll keep the roof moist.
Sadly, with such an exceptional tour now complete, it was time to load up our latest 100 tree order and make the trek north to begin the next step in this fantastic journey. By calling ahead, your order is pulled and ready for pickup as soon as you arrive, with careful attention being given while loading to ensure all of your trees are accounted for. Of course, once you're loaded up, no trip to Adams County Nursery is complete without checking back in with the office staff before you leave. Jen will see to it that your paperwork is finalized and ready to go as soon as you walk in the door. During our trip, Phil extended us the courtesy of explaining some of the historical photographs and items that are on display inside.
We harvested trees using a horse-drawn tree digger.
Wow.
And except I think these are mules.
Hard to tell.
And Guy used to say when those mules decided they were going to quit for the day, there was no getting going. You were done.
Okay.
But this was my great-grandfather.
I've seen
This is
some
probably in the 30s.
Yeah, I've seen some of the modern tree harvesters are like a modified Caterpillar tractor.
Yeah.
Is that what you use today?
No, we actually use a side draft digger with a four-wheel drive tractor.
Okay.
It's a blade very similar to that, but it's offset 1911 photograph of my great-grandfather at a Granger's picnic.
Wow.
Which in those days, that was the trade shows.
Sure.
The Granger's picnic, because the farmers all came out.
Yeah.
So this was his exhibit. He was in the business of manufacturing apple barrels, which is the way they packed apples in those days.
Yeah.
And he was showing his nursery stock, which he dug the trees up with the leaves on and brought them to the Granger's picnic, planted them in his exhibit. So.
Well, Phil, I want to thank you for showing us around here today.
Absolutely,
Really
it's my pleasure.
It's a breath of fresh air when a family business on a scale like this can take the time out in your peak season to show us around, and really appreciate you taking the time today.
Glad to do it.
Thank you.